So luckily, we have not had to evict anybody. So I think it really has to do with our vetting process, which is pretty unique. And actually, I'll love your feedback on this. So our vetting process is essentially they fill out a questionnaire, and then from there they hop on a call with me or my assistant, and then after that they hop on a FaceTime tour and talk to one of the roommates in the
Mm.
house. And then from there, I don't make the final decision. The house makes the decision. So one of the nights after that FaceTime kind of tour call, we have everyone sit down, probably having dinner, and then we just hop on the call with them and they get to ask them questions to see if it's a good fit. And then unanimously, they got to make a decision. Yeah, this person's a good fit for the house. So that's our process. And that's worked for the last 2.5, 3 years. And so it's kind of a fun way to do it where, I'm not the one dictating whether someone is right for the house. Obviously, I have a small say in that first step, but it's more so, is this a good fit? Because harmony in the house is most important.
Welcome to the Real Estate Law Podcast. Jason Muth here with Pride Away Stays, straightforward short-term rentals. Rory Gill, our real estate attorney and real estate broker. Rory, we have a big deal on this podcast right now. We are extremely excited to welcome Jesse Ray from the Growth House. Jesse's coming to us from Phoenix, and Jesse is building this massive community, co-living spaces. He's got a podcast, and it's all branded under the Growth House. Jesse, what's going on?
What's up, fellas? I'm excited to be on the show today.
Yeah, well, we love having other podcast hosts on as well. We feel a little pressure. Rory, do you feel pressure when we have other podcast hosts on or no?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm getting interviewed in reverse. So I just want to make sure that we bring our A game to this.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, like we're always just seeing how I've been on a bunch of podcasts as well. And like, there's definitely some stuff that happens in advance on those people's podcasts that I don't do. I mean, I've gotten like pre-questionnaires before. I've had pre-calls before the podcast. I'm like, should I be doing all this stuff? I'm like, I don't think I have time for it, but everyone runs their business their own way. So Jesse, the Growth House, like when did you guys start this? And like, tell us a little bit about what you have going on with the Growth House.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of give you the backstory. So I'm from corporate sales. That's kind of my background. And at the time, this is around 2020, right when the pandemic happened, I was like, man, I want to transition into entrepreneur, right? And for the last 5 years, I started businesses, shut them down. I won't say they're failures, but definitely learning lessons. And so at that time, I read a tweet and it said, life hack, move out of your hometown in your 20s. And I literally took it to heart. And from there, I ended up going to Arizona, buying my first property in Arizona. And then at the same time, I'm thinking this concept like, okay, who do I want to surround myself with? And at the time, it was entrepreneurs, people who were business professionals. And so that's kind of where the Growth House concept started. It was me literally house hacking and then being intentional about who I was living with.
Mm-hmm. So where are you from originally?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, beautiful city. I've been to Phoenix, been to
Yes.
Portland. We love Portland though. Rory and I were there a couple of years ago. Okay. So, and you mentioned move out of your hometown in your early 20s. What a fantastic piece of advice. I actually never read that piece of advice, but I moved out of my hometown, moved back a little bit after college, and then moved out of my hometown, I think 22 or so. Rory, when did you move out of your hometown?
I never really moved back after college, but I stayed relatively local to
Yeah.
It depends what you mean by hometown. I stayed in the Boston area, but
Right.
not in my hometown. Yeah.
Right. But still, it's not your hometown. I mean, like, you don't run into the same people at Dunkin' Donuts, like, or sorry, Dunkin' every time you're getting iced coffee, right?
No, I definitely don't.
So Jesse, you surround yourselves with people, and we've heard the phrase, surround yourself with the people that you want to be, and whatever the other cliches are from all the business books, like, you're the equal part of what 5 people, the top 5 people that, whatever it is, what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Do
So
you guys actually know that there's a study by Harvard done? I just found this out like a couple months back. There's a study, 25-year study, and it said 95% of your success is dictated on the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I was
Is
like,
it really?
oh, that's actually crazy. Yeah, like there's actually studies being done to prove that, because we all
Yeah.
heard the cliches.
Yeah. But talk a bit about, I don't want you to speak for your entire generation, but you certainly have a lot of friends probably in their mid 20s, late 20s or so. Is this the norm? For your friend group, it probably is, right? Because you've chosen to surround yourselves with these entrepreneurial people and you want to really, grow like you are. But Are most people doing this, or did you just kind of find this hack out?
Most people are not doing it. And I did it out of kind of necessity for myself because in Portland, Oregon, love the city, still my, home. But at the end of the day, gray skies, not very entrepreneurial,
Mm.
like don't look at business owners in a great light, at least right now. And so for me, I'm like very intentional about who do I want to surround myself with? And I didn't have like those kind of friends. I had friends that were, day one, they're family to me. But at the end of the day, for me to grow and, go on a track that's different, I had to move and I had to be around different people. So I would say no, but also in the sense that I think my generation does feel this need to be connected because adult loneliness, which kind of seems like a crazy concept, is actually very true. Especially since pandemic, we were literally just shut off from everybody. And so people do strive and want that connection in person.
Adult loneliness is massively true. I actually just saw an
Mhm.
article in the Wall Street Journal today about the loneliness of people that work in business, especially remote workers. And it's only gotten worse over the past couple of years. With hybrid work from home, not wanting to go back to the office, people not realizing. I mean, the generation of people that came out of college that they've only been working hybrid or remote ever since. They don't know what it is to be in this great, vibrant community like you're surrounding yourself with the Growth
Mhm.
House. Before I talk about that really quickly, like talk about the support that you had from either your family or your friends when you decided to move out of your hometown and do all these entrepreneurial things. Like, did people think you were nuts or were they supportive of you?
I've always kind of been more of a leader in the sense that I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. And so I'm going. I didn't know a single person in Arizona. So I
Right.
literally just took the leap and yeah, my close friends obviously, were there for me and said, hey, I'll help you, with this transition with the move. I'll come out visit. But it was kind of a lonely journey to start.
Okay, so you're on the Growth House, all right? It's, kind of at its essence, it's a real estate investment mixed with entrepreneurism, mixed with building a social network of people doing the same thing, heading toward financial freedom. Talk a little bit about where you came up with this concept of co-living. Was this something you were studying and you thought it was really going to be a good idea to take off? Are you one of the, people on the forefront of it and it's a big emerging space today?
Yeah, for sure. Co-living is something that I believe in a ton. I think it just started for me trying to get into real estate. I had analysis paralysis for 5 years. Then finally, I always tell people put pen to pad, actually write down your goals because then they actually turn into like goals that you can achieve instead of just dreams. And so for me, it was getting into house hacking. House hacking from there, it was being strategic, surrounding myself with the right people. And that ended up turning into co-living because once you move from your house hack, which I can talk about what a house hack is, then it turns into a co-living home where you're basically renting by bedroom. And obviously we have a niche market with, entrepreneurs, business professionals, and growth-minded people living with us, but also want people to take away like, hey, you can do this just in a normal co-living house. It doesn't need to be, niche down specifically to what I'm doing. But as far as house hacking, essentially I was able to get into a house 3 to 5% down and then also have open bedrooms and I just rented out those bedrooms.
Rory, this sounds a lot like our friend Michael that runs Incubate, which are a couple co-working spaces here in the greater Boston area, except people don't sleep there. I mean, maybe they do if they if they need a place to crash. But Rory, what's your sense of like a house hack where it actually not only became renting by the bedroom, but renting by the bedroom to a community of people that are kind of like-minded moving in the same direction?
Well, I'm interested to hear more because I do have some experience in the co-working space as a business that was in a co-working space for a number of years, and I appreciate the network effect that comes from it, the people that you see, the relationships that you make. But I think that when the trends within co-working have run a course where it's a bit more transactional and community oriented. There are still very good co-working spaces available that diligently work to foster that community and the relationships among its members. But I think a lot of the co-working spaces have become transactional lately, where you can simply rent a space, you can use it for conferences and meeting rooms, but it doesn't necessarily build that. So with this idea, I'm interested to hear how exactly the community comes together, and also what you have to do as the organizer of it all to really foster and to be the catalyst for the relationships in the house.
For sure. Yeah. Community is so important. If you lose that, then it just turns transactional. Absolutely. And so for us, when we launched the first official growth house, actually, I'll tell you a quick story about one of the first people to find us, because I think that ties into then what we ended up doing. So in 2021, got the first house, people moved in. It wasn't very structured. It was more so like, oh, cool, a bunch of people living together that were like-minded. And then it turned into, oh, we can actually have a concept here. And so I put an ad out on Facebook just saying, hey, this is an idea that we have, Entrepreneur House. And one of my friends, actually, I didn't know him, he was off of Facebook. He reached out and said, hey, I'm interested. Can I come by, check out the house? And so I bought another house literally down the street with the concept of, okay, they're close by. People can just walk back and forth to each house. And so he comes into the house. I was completely remodeling it. Now I actually had my bed in the kitchen because the other house was rented out. And so he comes in, he's like, well, what's this? I'm like, don't worry about my bed in the kitchen. It's getting remodeled. Here's the growth house vision. And I basically painted the vision of what this is going to be. It's basically going to be an incubator for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs to come live, grow, and build together. And then we're going to have like weekly master classes, and then also accountability meetings. And we'll go to the gym in the morning, cold plunge. And I just remember him looking at me like I'm crazy, but at the same time, he looks around and says, I love this. I'm in. So I just want to say, like, you only need that one person to believe in you to actually get something to, pop off and grow. And so shout out my friend Derek. Real quickly, I'll tell his story. He came from sleeping on one of his friend's couches, just started his Airbnb property management company. He only had 3 properties, only making, about $1,500 a month, came to the growth house within 6 months of surrounding himself with the right people, the resources, connections that we were able to provide. He then had, after only 6 months, 30 properties in 3 different states. And now he's doing over $500,000 of revenue and just exploding his business in 6 states. I think he has 60 properties to date, and this is only 2 years ago. So just kind of give an example of someone that's come in and been a part of the growth house. And it's cool to see these journeys and, growth happen.
So he's co-hosting short-term rentals across the country.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we do. I'm in one of ours right now. So we own 5 ourselves. And then we just launched a business last year called Pride Away Stays, which serves Provincetown, Mass, just that one town. But we've kind of scaled that up a little bit with a nice little client portfolio. It can happen fast, with short-term rentals. I mean, I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, and I'm part of a group called STR Secrets Mastermind. We got a bunch of people out in Scottsdale, running some massive homes. Yeah, some beautiful homes out there. Probably some of the same people that we know.
Do you know Sabrina Guler? She was just on our podcast.
I don't know Sabrina. Do you know Mike Stone, who's on our podcast? He's
okay. We're gonna have to do a swap because
yes, we will.
That's what I love about podcasts, man.
Mike is. I met him a couple of years ago down in Miami. He really has turned his game on with medium-term rentals, and he's friends with a guy named Tristan who runs some awesome places out in Scottsdale. But man, of course, you have to have the cold plunge. Right? Like, that's
like the entrepreneur thing these days.
It is. And like, if you didn't put it on Instagram, it never happened. You never went inside the cold plunge, right?
So true.
Yeah. You got to do it and film it. It could be a generational thing. I'm a little older than you. So, cold plunges aren't exactly in my future. And I certainly am not putting it on camera, but when you're working out as hard as you are, Jesse, like, you deserve to do that and document it. Okay. So with Growth House, the concept is so cool in that it's not just random people that you have that are renting those bedrooms. So a classic kind of house hack is where it started, but then you started building community around it, and you're finding entrepreneurs and you're learning from each other, having that spirit of understanding in your 20s that you're never done learning. Right. I think that a lot of people make the mistake, myself included, that when you finish college, you kind of just start working and you learn on the job, but entrepreneurs need to learn from each other. Right.
100%. Yeah, never stop. Actually, that's kind of one of our quotes, is never stop learning. So I love that you mentioned that. But yeah, absolutely. I think there's a power in just being close proximity. Proximity is power. And also, if you're around other entrepreneurs, it makes you have that belief in yourself. For me, the reason why I join masterminds and even, get into rooms that are way, higher elevated than I am in success in business is because I then get to have close interactions with someone and realize they're not that different than me. And that makes me think, like, in my head, if you can do it, I can do it. It's that belief in myself. So I think that's super important. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to take my step away from corporate America into full-time entrepreneurship was because of that house, that first house. I surrounded myself with like-minded people, and I'm like, these guys are all starting businesses. I can do it too. And so 100% agree exactly what you said.
I think the people that have done it before us, before you, before me, those are the ones that, you know, we don't think that they're just normal people, but they are. They were in the same shoes that you were in a couple of years ago. They're just a little bit ahead, right? So like their
Mm-hmm.
mindset has already changed. They've already made that 10x mindset. They've already decided that they are this person that they're going to be, that they're not the person that they were. So a lot of people that are getting into it now, they haven't had that mindset change, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah, it's a mindset change. It's also, I think, another one of the big things around, you know, what our house is that people ask me like, what's the benefit? One of the benefits is if someone's winning and you're not for whatever reason, like you're going through a little slump, it's like we're matches. If one person's lit up, walking around the house on fire, they're closing deals, the other person's going through a slump, you get close enough, your match is going to get lit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of another, you know, pro about being around in close proximity to other entrepreneurs, and it helps adapt that mindset.
Do you find that everybody is in kind of that real estate entrepreneurial category of work that they're doing, or do you have tech entrepreneurs that you hear from, people that are inventors, people that are service providers? What are the types of folks that are coming into your houses?
Yeah, we have all over. We have people that design websites. We have, I'll shout out one of my guys, Jaron Lodge. He's about to do $3 million in revenue this year. So that's been cool to watch that growth. He's a product. So his product is called Skipping Hole. And essentially it's like cornhole, except it's skipping stones in the water. So you skip these stones into the water, and his product is blown up. And I actually recruited him from ASU. I was like looking on ASU's website, who won all the grants, who's in the pitch competitions. And I'm like, Jaron, I want you in our house. So I got him into our house, and then he's got offered to be on Shark Tank. And then his product is literally blown up from, I think he did almost $1 million revenue last year. And then this year he's on track for 3. So a bunch of different types of businesses. Yeah, it's not all just real estate or just, yeah, it's a wide variety.
How many growth houses do you have right now?
So we have 3 growth houses, and I will say we decided instead of doing like a full year. So the first year we just did a full year. People were just like committed. And I'm like, okay, that's intense. So we decided to say, okay, growth house, we're going to have basically a cohort. So our next cohort is at the start of 2025. And those are the people that are serious about really just exploding and expediting their success and growth. And so the rest of the houses, we have about 3 or 4, we have 3 other houses right now, and those are with business professionals and aspiring entrepreneurs. So it's kind of like a cohort section and then more of the longer term stay for those other people.
It's like a little bit of a reality show too. It's like Big Brother. Like you'll have a cohort of people. You don't have cameras in all the rooms, do you?
No, no, Diddy.
But you have a cohort of people coming in. So let's say
Mhm.
it's a 3-month cohort or whatever time period it is, you know, then they're done. So then they all move out, and then you clean the house, and then another cohort comes in.
Yeah, so that's the direction we're working with for these entrepreneurs who are specific in, hey, we want to raise capital. We're looking to really 10x our growth in like a 3-month span. Yeah, that's going to be our cohort. And then the other houses are more long-term stays, just with great like-minded, growth-minded people. And it's funny you mentioned reality TV, because like 6 months into creating Growth House, I'm in Puerto Rico with one of the guys from the Growth House, Derek, who I just mentioned, and we're in Puerto Rico, and I get a call from one of my friends. So she's like, hey, I got a producer in Beverly Hills that wants to do a show on the Growth House. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know this world. Like, so I'm like, all right, whatever. Well, let's go connect. So I fly out to Beverly Hills, meet this lady. She's amazing. She actually won like a producer award. And so we sat down, and essentially I ended up saying, hey, I want to take a step back. 1, because my vision wasn't exactly clear yet on what I want a Growth House to be, but also 2, they wanted to turn it into more of a Jersey Shore for entrepreneurs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we're breeding entrepreneurs, not literally, like we don't want that drama, like, you know, with entrepreneurs. So I was like, all right, we'll take a step back. But that's something that we're going to do for this next cohort, is that we have a production team, and we're going to do a YouTube show surrounded with the people who are going through this journey. So Jason, you got it.
And it just felt like that was the direction where things were headed, right? But
Yeah,
you're not doing any like Real Housewives table flipping on the show. It's going to be, if you're the producer or you're hiring the producer and it's going to be a YouTube series, then you control the content, right?
exactly.
You don't have to rely on a Bravo producer to put some artificial drama in there, and then change the chemistry of one of your cohorts.
And as you
That
know, there's enough drama in business. Like we don't need more drama added. Like there's highs and lows. It's a roller coaster of a journey.
I'm sure people can, choose to get along or not get along without having a producer needling them. And that probably happens in your houses too. Entrepreneurship could be a high stress environment where, sometimes people just don't always get along.
Hmm.
And I'm sure that happens. It feels like, Rory, remember Silicon Valley, the show?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the and not to kind of divert it probably from where you're going, but there's a moment that I remember in Silicon Valley where the tech entrepreneur had basically a squatter stay in his apartment, and then he ended up having to, you know, cater to him and eventually pay him to have him leave. And I think you kind of answered the question with the home that's being used as a cohort house. It's a cyclical, relatively short stay that somebody's there. But in the longer term, you're trying to foster a really specific feel in the houses. Have you ever had to deal with somebody who just either doesn't or no longer fit the mold of what you're looking for? And, when somebody's part of a mastermind group, it's pretty easy to kind of usher them out. But if it's their actual place of residence, it's a lot more complicated. How do you curate that? And have you ever had to remove somebody from the home or show them, suggest that they live elsewhere?
Yeah, great question. So luckily, we have not had to evict anybody. So
Hmm.
I think it really has to do with our vetting process, which is pretty unique. And actually, I love your, feedback on this. So our vetting process is essentially they fill out a questionnaire, and then from there they hop on a call with me or my assistant, and then after that they hop on a FaceTime tour and talk to one of the roommates in the
Hmm.
house. And then from there, I don't make the final decision. The house makes the decision. So one of the nights after that FaceTime kind of tour call, we have everyone sit down, probably having dinner, and then we just hop on the call with them and they get asking questions to see if it's a good fit. And then unanimously, they got to make a decision. Yeah, this person's a good fit for the house. So that's our process. And that's worked for the last 2.5, 3 years. And so it's kind of a fun way to do it where, I'm not the one dictating whether someone is right for the house. Obviously, I have a small stay in that first step, but it's more so, is this a good fit? Because harmony in the house is most important.
Mm-hmm. It's like a self-perpetuating board of directors. When the spot opens up, they all got to vote on the next person.
Exactly. And also it's easier for me. So I don't have to worry about like, all right, it's on Jesse to make the
Hmm.
decisions. Like, yeah, we'll have the house decide.
So can I ask, as the entrepreneur and founder of this, like, how are you making money with Growth House? Is it just through the rent, or is there also, some fee that people are paying to be part of these cohorts?
Yeah, so it is a premium to be in a growth house because of what we provide. But essentially right now the model is that rent by bedroom. And so we're looking to change it like for this next cohort. We're tweaking about pricing to figure out what's the best way to do it. And here's also the cool thing about it is because we're doing the production, we're looking at sponsorships. So now we're in talks with companies that want to sponsor it. So I'm like, okay, now I actually can recruit people and they don't have to worry about the pay for the bedroom. Maybe it's like discounted because we have these sponsorships, these companies stepping in to help cover that cost. So that's kind of the direction we're going. This is definitely going to be, a changing, and we're going to pivot to figure out what's the correct way to do it. But for the long-term houses, yeah, those are just rent by bedroom, furnished room, and utilities included, everything like
Mm.
that.
What a fascinating business. Like how this all came together. Are there other people doing something similar that or have you consulted other people that have called you saying, I want to do my own version of Growth House?
There's people that do co-living for sure. Not too many people have niched down like in a specific niche. I would say there was a company called Launch House and actually kind of modeled some of my stuff after them. They're a house in LA. They were a little chaotic. They had this huge mansion in Beverly Hills and they only did a 30-day stay and they had like 40 founders join their house for 30 days. It's actually a cool concept, but I just think they ran out of founders and they it ended up not working out. And also they were leasing, I believe, the home. So for us, like you guys said at the very beginning, I tell people, hey, this is also a real estate play. We own
Mm.
the asset. we own, and we're going to look to start a fund probably next year as well to have and add more of these as we scale. So that's kind of our model and what we're going for.
Right, but the tenants don't own at all. Like there's no equity stake that they have.
Not for the tenants, no, but we also, for the people that maybe are focused on home ownership, we're huge on that. Like, hey guys, after you leave our community, we don't want you to go anywhere else until you get your own home. Like, we believe in real estate, so we'll help you get your own home.
Talk about the community you built though, as well, because you have your podcast, the Growth House podcast. But you've also, once you graduate out of a house, like I'm sure that's not the final connection that you have with you and the community, right? Are they members for life? Are they allowed to, interact with everybody else, like formally with something that you're organizing?
Yeah, so we have our online community that we just launched. So that's basically people looking to achieve financial freedom, similar model. And for us, it's just all about, providing the resources, providing the right connections to expedite your growth to financial freedom. And a lot of us do it through real estate. So yeah, that's also what they're a part of and able to access if they join the house. So that, and then also we have twice a year, we have these masterminds, which are incredible. They're 3 days, rent a mansion out here in Scottsdale, and just have like basically the top entrepreneurs and investors in Arizona come hang out at the house. And then also I fly in my top network. So we have people come from Dubai, people from Puerto Rico, Nashville, Austin, all over the country to come hang out for about 2 to 3 days in the mansion and just network and connect.
It's not all guys, right?
No, it's a mix.
Yeah. Yeah. How about age groups? Can old fogies come too? Or no? Everyone's like in their 20s.
Yeah, we have all kinds of age groups. I would say typically it's about 23 to 35 is kind of like the core demographic.
Yeah.
But for the people that come join our online community, 100%, it's all over the place. And that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to do the online community, was because we want to have access for other people to join and be a part of this community and network.
Rory, I think I want to redo my 20s, kind of do this, right? I didn't know that I wanted to do this back then. Jesse, I'm in my 40s. I could still say that. I still got a 4 hanging on. But like, I worked in corporate for a long time. Like, you worked in corporate for a couple of years and you kind of made this nice pivot. I love seeing people's pivot from corporate to entrepreneurship, at whatever point in their journey it happens. Sometimes it happens intentionally, sometimes it doesn't. But it'll happen for many people. It happened for me later in life. So I was able to work corporate for a long time. And for the most part, I enjoyed it very much, which actually helped me do what I'm doing as an entrepreneur because I had the money to do it. And I saved my pennies, right? A lot of folks are really bootstrapping when they're coming into your programs. Like you don't have people in their 20s, even in their 30s that have worked for a long time, that they've saved up all this money, so do you find that that's an impediment to their growth, or do they just not have the mindset of like, I'm not going to worry about the money. It's going to come. I'll get funded. I just got to be that person I want to become, not the person that I am.
Yeah, I think I understand your question. So essentially, like people in their 20s, are they thinking to just focus on their business or also invest and save?
Both. Yeah. What are they doing? Like, what are these? Is it business, or do they actually see a pathway forward that they need to, save separate from this business?
Yeah, I think it depends. I've actually noticed because I'm kind of more new to the startup world. We have people like advisors who basically help with the startups, with the pitch competitions, all that type of stuff. But for me, I see definitely a difference in the mindset of someone who's a startup founder and they're looking to raise capital versus someone who's more of like where I came from, corporate America. And I was all about like financial, independence, retire early, buy assets to get cash flow and passive income. So I think they are actually pretty different mindsets. And so for us, it's kind of like interesting, like kind of seeing the different types of people who come into the houses with those different mindsets. So I think there's two schools of people. And I think some, like the startup founders, they're just all in on their business, not looking to save, reinvest every dollar. And then there's people more like on my track, which is, hey, save, delayed gratification, buy assets, passive income, which that was the reason I was able to leave my corporate job. I don't know if we want to talk about that because it's actually kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, go for it. What'd you do?
So while I was doing the growth house, I bought the second house. Remember, it was just being remodeled. And so after Derek comes in and says, hey, I want to, be a part of this, I had a software sales job. So I was making decent money. And right after I closed on that second house, I get a call from HR, and I'm oblivious because I was a top sales guy in my last company. I just got recruited to this next company, and they said, "Hey, Jesse, we gotta, let you go." And I'm like, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting this." But back in my mind, I remember I wrote down in my journal, February 2022, I'm done with corporate America. I'm going all in. And so at this time, I get invited to basically be on another sales team, which was one step below the sales team I just got let go from. And so I'm having this call with the manager, and it just was going not right. I just felt like they were trying to big dog me. They're trying to be like, "Oh, why should we add you to the team?" I'm like, "Guys, I was just on the team ahead of you. I'm trying to help you. Like, I'll be a great asset. You've seen my track record." Long story short, they basically said, "Jesse, you know what? Sell yourself to us." And I get it. I was in sales, but that just hit me just in a different way. When I knew I was adding up all the rental income that I was getting, I said, "You know what? Remind me what the base salary is for this position." And they said it was right around six figures. So I go, "You know what? I'm not selling myself because you guys can't afford me." And that's exactly how I left corporate America, because I realized I was making more money through the rentals than I was for my base salary for that job. And the craziest thing, I went back to HR. I said, "I love your guys' company, just didn't mesh with the managers. Talk to me about that severance package you mentioned." And they told me, "Jesse, that severance package is going to last until February of 2022. And I'm a man of faith. I believe in God. And with that, I was like, "God, all right, I will listen to you. Let's do this. I'm going all in. I'm
A
trusting you."
sign.
So that's what happened.
It was a sign from above. Wait, so were they offering you, they were saying your position was being eliminated, but there's a sales team below you that you could go try to join if you wanted to. And then
Correct.
you got that attitude from those sales managers. And you're like, "You know what? I don't need this. Like, these guys need me.
Exactly.
I'm gonna go do something else." That's awesome to have that courage to be able to do that. Not everybody has. A lot of people just feel like they just have to keep working, and when they let go, they're like they don't know what to do. But you kind of were sowing those seeds alongside the corporate life that you had, which we've said that multiple times in this podcast. Like, for people that just want to like up and quit, it's harder than if you were to transition, meaning like start doing these second and third income streams now while you're working,
Yes.
so you could transition away from those at some point, when your time has come. And in corporate America, everyone's time has come. My time came, your time came. Everyone gets that phone call at some point. Then
And that's
you
the thing.
just,
I never thought it would happen. I never thought it would happen. So like, what's the quote? Dig your well before you're thirsty. That's what I was
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah. I did it unknowingly as well. I mean, Rory saw me, doing it. He's known me for God, I don't know, 15 years now at this point.
But
In the last two jobs, we're 13 years with two companies, sales manager, sales director. Like, they were great
Mhm.
jobs, but like, in that second one, we started in real estate on the side. And next thing you know, it's got some decent money coming into the real estate, where when my time was come, I was like, well, I'm just going to do this, like, and just do more of it. It just makes more sense.
Exactly.
And here we are talking, we're recording this on a Tuesday. Like, I'm wearing a t-shirt, beautiful setting, right? I'm not stuck behind some desk making cold calls or anything. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people listen to this podcast and they're working those kind of jobs. And like, I worked them for a long, long time. All right. But that's what gets you, if you play your cards right and you invest separate from that, it allows you to have a lifestyle such as this. And this isn't all wine and roses. I mean, Jesse, talk about some of the weird stuff that's happened with Growth House. Like, what are some curveballs you've gotten along the way?
Yeah, I mean, curveballs. I like right after I quit, I'm like, all right, I got money coming in, so I'm going to be good. But at the same time, I think I tore like part of my knee, so I had a huge bill there. And then the same week, my roof collapsed in one of my houses. So yeah, there's stuff that's going to come up, and you just got to get creative and realize that, if you did dig your well before you're thirsty, you got this income coming in, you're going to be okay. And also, I think one of the big things was I try to do stuff before testing to see if the market was ready for it. So I'll give you an example. So we tried to do a mastermind with only a month heads up, and it was going to be a 21-day mastermind. And in my head, I'm like, people are living with me for 12 months in these houses. Someone can just up and leave their situation and come do a mastermind for 21 days. No, that market doesn't exist. I haven't figured it out yet. So we tried to do it, had 60K on a credit card, and took a huge loss on that mastermind that we did. Ended up being awesome, but at the same time, I had the thought process of, if I build it, they will come. And I realized, no, I got to actually ask the people ask my current, audience community, hey, is this something that you want to be a part of? So yeah, there's definitely stuff that I've done that I've taken losses on, and it's just figuring out how to recover and bounce back and then do it smarter the next time. So I'll never say like I got the Midas touch where everything I do turns, perfect.
Yeah. But at least you have the attitude that you're not going to get broken, right? And when something happens, like your roof collapses, that was probably a moment where you're like, why am I doing this? And then you just kind of brush yourself off and, you say, okay, it happened. Let me figure out the way forward.
Exactly. And for me, I just have such a positive outlook where I'm like, I get excited almost. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good story to share on a podcast one day. Like, I don't know, maybe I think differently. But I literally have this quote where I probably stole it from someone, but like your tests become your testimony. And I'm always thinking in the future, like, will I worry about this about 6 months down the road? No, I'm probably gonna laugh about this and then share it and inspire other people that, guys, it is not all sunshine and rainbows. You are gonna go down, and then you just gotta figure a way to get back up.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to that. I'm sitting in a room right now that tested our patients 2 months ago. And, we had a massive flood at this house due to a guest
Oof.
leaving a faucet on during a power outage and the drain plugged. So, a couple months later, and we're kind of back where it was, 2.5 months ago, thankfully. I can't believe how quickly it all came back together. But, when you're right there and you get that phone call at 2 a.m. from the fire department, Rory like hops out of bed with the dehumidifier and a mop. He's like, I'm gonna go up there and fix it. I was like, I
Oh, poor
appreciate.
Rory.
Yeah,
No.
no, he showed
It's,
up like, what you, Rory, you FaceTime me with like no power
and
on with the thing on your head.
I went to set up a little generator to go power a wet vac. And with that, I don't know if there's optimism or just, foolishness, but I looked back at it and I was about to get it going. And then I realized it's way beyond that.
Yeah.
My little bit of effort wasn't going to make a difference in there. And then you just kind of let it happen and pick up the pieces from there.
Yeah, also I realized like I always thought I'd be there to solve the problems, like the ceiling collapsing. I was like, oh, I gotta run to the house. If I was in Puerto Rico, I'm like, wait, there's nothing I could do. Like I just gotta call my guys, call the whole warranty and get it figured out. So I think that was another thing that I'm like, okay, I can actually build my business remote, which was a huge eye opener for me. I always thought I'd be hands-on and be this, solopreneur for life, but that's kind of the process where I'm at right now is expanding the team, adding the right people around me.
Yeah, we're in that same process as well. And there's a noble mindset to rolling your sleeves up and just taking care of it. And a lot of the
Mhm.
time I still do that. Like before we recorded this podcast, I was staining underneath our deck because I wanted to do it. I knew where the stain was. It took me 2 seconds. I'm going to do it. Fine. I'm going to roll my sleeves up. I could have hired that job out. There's many jobs I will hire out still that I either don't want to do or don't have the skill how to do. But we get hired yourself, people come into your home because you have the connections as to how to get things done. We get hired, with our co-hosting business because we know who to make those phone calls to arrange for, you name the contractor that, a homeowner might
Mhm.
not necessarily know. And it's just a matter of understanding how to get things done, how to problem solve. That's one thing I've learned a lot the past couple of years. And when this flood happened here, I remember recording a video downstairs. I've done a lot of videos, documenting kind of the rebuild and the build. Um, and I said, this is not going to break me. This is
Mm.
trying my patience, but this is not going to break me. And knock on wood, it didn't. It didn't break any of us. So
Yeah.
let me start to get to the final couple of questions. I want to ask though, before we get to our final three, how are you using AI these days, in your business and, with growth for the Growth House or for any of the entrepreneurial activities that you're doing?
Oh, you're not gonna like this answer. I'm not. I'm not using it much. That's something that I definitely need to take advantage of because I know there's so many, opportunities and ways I can, which maybe I'll ask you offline how I can do that.
I feel like you have an army of people living in your homes that could also probably answer that question. But
For sure.
we've been
For
peppering
sure.
that
Yeah,
in
they're
every
probably
so
doing
often.
way better than I am.
It's amazing. It's not. I'll ask the question and like you just the most random like curveball from left field where people are like explaining how they're using AI and you don't think that the person's using it, but they're using it really sophisticatedly. Which is that even a word? I don't know, but I just made that up. Um, Rory, any final thoughts for Jesse before we get to the final few questions?
Do you have any thoughts to expand outside of Phoenix and come to, Boston, for example?
Yeah, we got to do it in Boston. I think actually one of my guys is out there. Do you guys know Cody Berman from the Five Show?
No, I don't
I
know
gotta
Coach
connect you
No.
Irving.
guys. All right, he's
You'll find
awesome.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely connect you. But yes, we are looking to expand. We're probably going to have our flagship house here in Arizona next year. And then end of Q3, Q4, looking to expand, see what that model looks like, whether it's a franchise model, a licensing model, but 100%.
I'm just thinking like you've thought about all this stuff now, but now I just see where this could head, right? You talked about raising some money like for future houses, right? If you're raising
Mhm.
capital, so you certainly can go out there to the investor community. People are looking for 8, 10, 12% returns and raise some money for this asset class. It's um, it's not storage facilities, it's not nursing homes, it's not, college living, but it's like entrepreneurial co-living. And it's a whole new asset class that people probably aren't raising money for. So what a cool potential idea you have. I'm sure you've had that idea.
For sure. Yeah, our thing
Yeah.
is like we want 2 to 3 of these in every single major entrepreneurial city. Like we don't want to oversaturate the market with a bunch of these. Like we want to have the right people in these homes. And for us, 2 to 3 in every major entrepreneurial city is a plug and play for entrepreneurs, for people coming out of college, for just starting their businesses. Like it is the breeding ground to expand to that next level.
Yes. Yes. Be careful if you take some venture capital. They want you to grow really, really fast.
Oh,
And
I know.
we saw what happened with WeWork, right?
Yes.
Let's get to the final few questions and we'll learn more about where people could reach out to you if they want to live in one of your homes or be on your podcast or be part of the Growth House community. Okay, first question. If you can get on stage for half an hour and talk about any subject in the world with no preparation, what would that be?
Probably the art of connecting. I'm someone that prides myself on how to connect with people and build communities. So building communities and the art of connecting.
All right. Second question. Tell us something happened early in your life or career that impacts the way you're working today.
Ooh, early in my life, I would say getting slapped in the face a bunch of times by rejection doing sales. And for me, it was copier sales was my first sales job. And I just went door to door getting rejected over and over again. And if I didn't build that tough skin and also a skill set in sales, I would not be where I'm at.
Ugh, that is brutal. That is a toughie.
Yeah, it
But
was rough.
you got that callus right now on your face, right? People keep slapping you from the copier sales job, and you're never gonna forget that. I worked at the Gap years ago when I was in
Mhm.
high school, and I remember the stuff they taught us there. You're gonna remember this stuff for the rest of your life.
100%.
Final question we have for you. Tell us something that you're listening to or watching or reading these days. Anything in the world.
I would say I'm gonna shout out my friend Brian Lubin, Action Academy podcast. It's a daily show. I listen to it every single day. And speaking of that, I was able to connect with him last year, met him in Colombia, and then now we're doing a little Europe tour together for a few months coming up in June. So love that podcast.
That's awesome. All right. Well, you're also living halfway around the world, like for half the year, right? So
Yeah.
I've seen your Instagram. I mean, like there's fantastic photos from all over the place. You mentioned Puerto Rico. What do you have coming up?
Coming up, I got Portugal. So me and Brian, we're going to Portugal, going to Madeira, and then going to Spain. He's about to hit 1 million downloads on his podcast. So we're going to celebrate in Mykonos. And also it's going to be my birthday. So we're going to have some fun there. And then Costa Rica, and then France, and then back to AZ. And then I have a couple more things I got going on, but that's kind of like the next 3 months.
Oh my God.
Mm.
All right. We're not going to bore you with our next 3 months, but certainly not what you've described. Okay. So when people want to learn more about the Growth House, learn more about you, podcast, your community, what should they do?
Yeah, Growth House is the podcast name. Jesse Ray, Apple, Spotify, all of that. I'm most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. It's at the Jesse Ray. And then I think our website is just being redone right now, but it is growthhouse.co if you want to check that out.
All right. We'll put all those links in the show notes here. Rory, where can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about you?
Whatever's easier to remember, just look for my name, Rory Gill, at rorygill.com, or find me at my law practice, Urban Village Legal, urbanvillagelegal.com.
All right. And if you'd like to be a guest on this podcast, you can reach out to us at realestate.podcast.com. We love 5-star reviews. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to it, please give us those reviews. We read all your comments on YouTube as well. If you want to get a hold of Jesse, don't want to reach out to him, want to message us, go right ahead. We'll forward your message, but I'm sure he's pretty approachable. You can probably hit him up on LinkedIn or Instagram, as you mentioned. Hey, Jesse, this has been a great conversation. It's great to get to know you a little bit more. I love this concept. This is fantastic. Like, you guys are just killing it. And, I hope, that we're going to see one in Boston and Cambridge and Nashville and Austin and, all the great places around the country where there's all these like tech entrepreneurs and people that are really building cool stuff.
Absolutely. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys. And I'm excited to stay connected. I'm going to ask you on air, so I give you a little pressure. Would you guys be open to being on my podcast?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Right,
Look at that. I love the
let's
invites. Now we're committed because we've declared it. We've said it. I should write it down,
Yep,
right?
here
If
we
I write
go.
it down, it's going to happen too.
Yep.
But yeah,
Tasha's going to reach out. We'll make it happen.
it would be our honor to be on your podcast. We could talk about something a little bit less exciting than the growth house. But we do have some fun short-term rental stories to talk about, and, building business and switching from corporate worlds. And, Rory's got some attorney stuff to talk about, I think, but that's never super exciting.
Even building your own practice right out of law school? No, there's nothing, no issues there.
All right. Well,
Oh,
we'll look forward to that reach out. I can't wait to talk again. All right. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.